It's hard to beat days like these. In the Kent countryside, blue sky, beaming hot sun, old two-stroke. A lot of people now have been restoring their old bikes and had plenty of time to refurb and clean and shine, polish, source the parts globally. We're lucky to be riding one today, which is the 1982 CR480R. This is from a personal friend of mine, Andrew Waghorn. This is his boy, obviously here, John Waghorn. It was built by JGR Racing with the sole purpose to be ridden. It's not a show bike, it is to be ridden, it is to be raced. It will obviously, I think, be raced at the Apico two-stroke festival as well, and we've been here today just having a little ride and just want to give you a rider's impression of the 1980s. For its age, right, it's good. The power, the torque and the usable power is pretty good, to be fair, and you can be pretty much in kind of any gear other than first. But at the moment we've got no back brake, and I mean no back brake. The front brake, you know, it's there, but yeah, it doesn't really work too good. And just where the track's rumbly, where you know, where it's just so hard, getting on the power with the, you know, and being able to get in that sweet spot, it's proving a little bit just difficult at the minute because it just seems to be running so rich. So a few more tweaks, I think it'll be good, but I can definitely see why it's such an iconic bike, that's for sure, because you can maneuver it and turn, I mean, and even just some of the like man-made jumps, you know, like you can get a bit of a scrub on, get a bit of a jump on, which is all good. It's a special bike, it's a trick looking bike. I'm very honoured to be riding the bike. It's definitely opened my eyes into, you know, what people used to ride back in the day, and when men were men and why they had to be men, because starting this thing is an absolute mission. So, you know, if you was to drop it and have to start this bike, then you need to have some leg power. There's no way that the fairies of today would be able to start this bike. And like, I don't care what you say about starting and how easy like a 500 is to start. Come and start this thing then. You know, there's no way. You know, I'm there. I have got some legs on me, right? They might not be the longest legs, but they certainly have some power in these legs. And it was proving difficult for me to start this bike. This bike project has been going on for a number of years now. Andrew had the bike, you know, and obviously it wasn't in this state, far from it. He managed to source a lot of the parts globally, and it's taken a long time. But as you can see, the end result has definitely been worth it. And the bike, you know, it does look like it's just, you know, it's just come off the production run. In terms of look, you know, in terms of cleanness, obviously it has got a lot of aftermarket bits on it. It has got some titanium foot pegs, and it has got some titanium bolts, and a few other little special bits in it, you know, scattered around the bike. But just to touch on the bike, you know, the feel of the bike. First of all, as you can see, look, you know, it's a left leg kicker. So, you know, that in itself is pretty unique. That in itself is pretty hard work. You know, personally myself, I haven't started it with my left leg yet. I've started it with my right, and I've leant it over and kicked it up, and, you know, fired the machine to life. We can run you through the spec. I've been told that basically this is a bike from Roger DeCosta. It's his DNA, this bike. So basically Roger had a bit of influence in development towards this bike, with the full aim of basically making it lighter, because its predecessor in 1981 was a little bit heavy, a little bit revvy, you know, and it wasn't ideal. So Roger basically had put his touches or his European feel to it, the full aim of this bike was basically to make it lighter and to make the power delivery a lot smoother and a lot more torquier, easier to manage and to have a bike that you can race. So the bike itself is 10 kilos lighter. It's got a 4-speed gearbox. When you ride around on the bike, you do actually, you know, you're rolling. It does feel light. It is a light bike, even just to push it around, push it in and out of the van. To start it, obviously, like you said, it's not difficult, but it's just different. And obviously, we're in a modern world now where we do just push a button. When riding the bike, you know, you do feel that the bike does like to be ridden, you know, from bottom to mid. That's where the power's made. It's quite torquey. You can run a higher gear on it and let it pull out. You are using the gearbox. When you're riding the bike and using the gearbox, you do feel that you could do with an extra gear. And I'm led to believe that in 1983 that the bike did come with 5 gears, not 4, which I can see why Roger would want that, to be honest, because of the power being delivered, you know, from bottom to mid. You need that extra gear, you know, to equal out for the top end, because it's not an engine that likes to be revved high, and it shouldn't be revved high. It's a 480, you know. It's not. It's all about torque, drive, putting power to the ground, and getting the most from the machine. You know, regarding on how the bike feels, yeah, it does feel a little bit chunky when you do sit on it. That's just maybe because of the seat being quite square. It is quite spacious and you can move around. The way that the bike actually positions you, you know, here and quite low, so the center of gravity is really good on the bike, and the bike's low, so when you come around the turns, you can really feel it holding onto the ground, and they're just letting you wind on the throttle. And with the style of tracks that they were back in the day, with all the turns and off cambers and, you know, the bumpy straights, you needed soft suspension. You didn't need hard suspension for the big jumps. You know, that it was all about basically keeping that front wheel traveling nicely across the ground, you know, over the bumps. So that you definitely do feel on this bike. With this, in some of the old school sections on the track, you really do feel that actually this bike, you know, why has development gone so far one way? Because obviously you can just hold in tight on this bike and turn in tight and create a new line where probably you haven't been for most of the day on a modern bike. But on other sections of the track, you do actually feel like it is an old bike, and it, you know, and when you're going across some rollers and you're hitting jumps, and the balance of the bike, and you know, you do then really appreciate the modern bike, if I'm honest. And again, the speed in which you get from A to B in, you know, yes, it is a 480, but you know, there's no way that it compares to a 450. It's definitely not. But you know, that's not what this video is about. This video is about the 1982 model. But it's not a test of modern and old. It's a test basically of the movement of Honda back in the 1980s. You know, because in 1981 they had the 450, and then it was this was the first movement towards higher CC with the 480. Then Honda continued on the development train to later bring on, you know, the CR500. And the rest is history, as we say. Just to touch on the 83 spec a little more. So in 83, Honda carried on with their development. I'm led to believe that was basically because of Roger's input. You know, he obviously wanted an extra gear to 5 gears. Also as well, the front forks, there are adjustable front forks, but also as well the 83, you might notice that it has a bit of a blue theme, which maybe you might think that this one's an 83, but it's not, it's an 82. Also in 83, they had a removable subframe. So it was the first time that Honda moved away from the solid frame and, you know, had a 2-piece frame. So for Honda, this really was a milestone model, you know, 82. You know, if you look back in history, Danny Magoo, you know, he basically took this bike to victory, to some impressive shots back in the day where you can clearly see him blowing away quite a lot of the field. And again, you know, with the bike being lighter, with the torque, with the way that the power is delivered, it really is, it's just a special year for Honda. And then they went on to 83, like I've already said, but 82 does seem to be the that first step on the ladder are a big improvement, especially with air-cooled engines. So my riding experience on the bike, you know, first of all, you will always hear people saying about the suspension. I've touched on the suspension, saying, you know, about it being soft, and you know, and I get why, especially in the UK, that people do like to ride a lot in the southwest with them old school style tracks, and why the Evo scene is so big, and why they have to be Pacific tracks that they ride on, and people like to ride on, especially with these bikes, you know, because they do shake around quite a bit, they do tend to break, you are fixing them quite a lot, and you know, if you're sending them off big jumps all the time, especially in the 80s era, you know, you are going to be having to throw the spanners at the bike and really maintaining it to a standard for allowing you to be able to do that, to ride it like a, you know, as a modern rider will. That's not to say that you can't, but there is limits to that. And when I say about that, you know, moving on, the brakes on this bike are absolutely shocking. Like the rear brake is absolutely just non-existent. So yeah, when you come in, I say non-existent, you know, that is a bit extreme. It's there, but it might as well not be. You know, you're certainly not locking up the rear wheel. The front brake, yeah, I believe that was top technology at the time with a twin leading shoe. The front brake, you can feel, you know, when you're riding round, it still does push through. The way that the bike rolls as well, it rolls fast. I quite like that. You know, we all like that light rolling feeling, especially when you're jumping and when you're cornering. The power, you know, the power comes in. Yes, bottom to mid, kind of torquey. You know, you do feel that it hits a wall. It does sign off. You are hooking the gear. You know, you're definitely hooking them gears and getting the bike to kind of play ball around the track with you and make sure that you are in the right gears at the right time. You certainly don't want to be kicking down the box too low, and you do want to be picking your lines and keeping up the corner speed and really having a good flow around the circuit. The bike allows you to do that though, because of its design, like I've said, low center of gravity, the way that it puts you into a position for the turns, you're quite low and central. Clutch lever, yeah, yes, it is a little bit strong, should we say. It's not hydraulic, but it's not the end of the world. I have pulled in harder levers than that, to be honest. So yeah, depending on whether you're a boy or whether you're a man, you know, that's up to you whether you can put two fingers on and pull the lever in. All I'm going to leave you with is, you know, I just went with one. No. Do you feel safe in jumping a bike? Yeah, you feel safe in jumping it. Again, like, you know, regarding on tabletops, yeah, that's not a problem. You know, you just get your position and you can work it out. But again, you are going to that a bit more old school there. You know, the tracks. This bike was designed for them old school tracks. You know, so you know, the tracks back in the day, they never got graded. There was no machines on them. They never got power out. They never got ripped. You know, it wasn't getting watered. You didn't walk around and, you know, this word, it wasn't primo. It was what it was. It was pretty much, you know, grass. And the best of when you get to one of them tracks is the fact that it had been left for so long, you know, weathered, rained on, grass come back up, mud had moved about, and it, you know, self-grading. So I can see why, you know, on these bikes you wouldn't be scared to kind of send it or push the limits on them type of tracks, you know, with the high speed kind of ski jump or maybe a few drop downs, but you certainly you wouldn't be scared to hit the doubles or triples or a tabletop on this bike, but it's not what it's built for, and to be fair, you probably have a little bit too much respect for it and don't really want to take it through all that pain. But having said that, you know, you have got to send the bike, haven't you, over a couple of the tabletops and just get a feel for it. And again, you know, how light the bike for the CC, how light it feels in the air is very surprising. It's not got that flickability of a modern bike, but you know, it certainly has that straight line send. Honda and its traits of the ability to always have that bike which is very rideable, and even on this bike in this decade, that was very clear you know, it really did stand out to me that depending on how you moved your legs, you know, the bike would move, and just the full feel and position of the bike between your legs was really comfortable, and I just like the seat. So yeah, spend a little bit more time on it, fine tune it, you know, get that carburetor sweet so it's not so woolly, and so it can pick up just when you need it to, when you come out of the turns, and it's certainly, you know, it's 90% there. So for me, this is a project bike. You know, this is something that you're building. It's over time. You're going to take just as much pleasure building it and seeing the end result than you are riding it. So when you're riding it, you're going to have all of that, you know, associated to the source in the tank from America, and you know, maybe finding some engine cases out of Holland and bits and pieces all over there, and you're finding a bit about the history of the bike, and maybe there's some markings and engravings on there, and you know, it's a journey and it's a story, and it's frustrating, but at the same time addictive, and it's fun. So when you're riding one of these bikes, I can see why people get so much pleasure from riding them around the track. Personally myself, the modern day rider is definitely going to override one of these bikes, you know, without fail. But you know, as we're looking at the market these days, we are seeing that it has switched to a much older age, and let's say the old riders, they're coming back, or the riders that have got the modern bikes are also purchasing an Evo bike and restoring it, and they're having two in the garage, and they're looking forward to getting it out and riding against bikes which are very similar at this. I understand that, it's fun. Also as well, you know, the risk factor of getting hurt, of maybe sitting on the line with some young gun who's not going to be scared to hold it on all the way to the first turn. You know, when you're kind of riding these bikes, you're going to have a respect for the bike, you're going to have a respect for the riders who are around. All the riders as well, you know, their main aim is to go to work on Monday, so they're all going to be going into that first turn with racing into it, but with a little bit of respect for each other. So I can see the enjoyment, you know, from the bike and being associated into that community. We're all just two-wheeled fanatics that love engines and love the smell of two-stroke, or just love that buzz of, or just riding and racing the bike over obstacles or competing. I kind of see the adrenaline kick, you know, in charging towards the first turn on a bike that is going to struggle to stop. But again, you know, then you just got to throw it into the turn, and I get it, I get the appeal. Again, massive thanks. What a pleasure it is to ride such iconic machinery.